Well, welcome again. This is Spinning Out of the Turn, the Belmont Stakes edition, and yes, we are, in fact, going for a Triple Crown. And anyone who follows horse racing is excited about that, and naturally, the general sports fan is, for the most part, excited about it. So all of that's good stuff. Just to touch base briefly on the Preakness, it kind of played out as you heard me tell it here in our last edition. Justify to the lead, Good Magic trying to stay with him. Justify puts him away early in the stretch, clears off, and as often is the case, the closers come to him, but he was in control to win. He wasn't overly used down the stretch. Smith kept him together, but didn't push on him. In other words, he kept something in the tank for this next race, which is all you wanted him to do. You can make something of the poor time. Yes, he ended the race tired. Which isn't all that bad. You go work out and you're tired. You come back the next time and you're raring to go. And he showed that when he worked out last week and did a 4 furlong half mile in 46 and 3, which is more than racehorse time. So he looks extremely ready to go. Let's talk a little bit about the Triple Crown itself. There's been 12 winners of the Triple Crown. He's trying to be the 13th. But it's interesting to note he will be the 36th horse to come to the Belmont with the chance to win the Triple Crown. 12 have done it, which speaks to the difficulty of it. First, only 36 in over 100 years, and only a third of those 36 have actually pulled off the Triple Crown. Very, very difficult to do. The other interesting thing to realize is Triple Crown winners tend to come in clumps. The first two were way back before the 1930s, but in the 30s, there were 3 winners within an 8-year period. In the 1940s, there were 4 winners in an 8-year period. And then in the 70s, there were 3 winners. Secretariat, Seattle Slew, and affirmed in a 6-year period in the 70s. Well, now we fast forward. American Pharoah won it 3 years ago. We have Justify going for it now. It's very possible that if Justify can pull it off, we may see another cluster of Triple Crown winners. Interesting thing to consider, nonetheless. Another point on the prior Triple Crown winners. A lot has been made of, does Justify have enough bottom to him? Has he run enough to have enough depth of his strength to carry him 1.5 miles and to run as many races as he have in such a short period of time? Well, if we look back just at the Triple Crown winners from the 70s and American Pharoah and compare their races to Justify, it's interesting to note that Secretariat, Seattle Slew, and now Justify will have run 6 times, including the Belmont, as 3-year-olds. American Pharoah ran 5 times and affirmed 7. So they're all very close in their experience as a 3-year-olds. Now, we all know as 2-year-olds, Justify has no experience. But I think whatever shortcoming that may have created for him, he's overcome and really is in the rearview mirror, if you will. At least that's my hope. And I believe in the end that will be the case. So let's take a look at the Belmont Stakes in terms of favorites winning. 41% of the favorites have won the Belmont. That's, again, a very high percentage. Not as high as the Preakness, which was 50, but 41% is definitely above the typical average at a stakes level of 35-36%. However, in the last 15 years, only 2 favorites have won. Now, you can look at that one of 2 ways. We're due for a favorite to win, or we'll just continue the streak we've been on and there won't be a favorite to win. I tend to lean to the former, and we're going to have the favorite win. But talking about the track and the race itself, this is very much a jockey's race, and to give you some reasons why. Belmont Park is the only track in North America that's 1.5 miles in circumference. So a lot of jockeys aren't familiar with riding on it, and it is distinctly different than the typical Churchill Downs, Pimlico, Santa Anita tracks because of that extra distance. The turns are longer, and they are not as sharp. So the horse is in the turn for quite a while. giving an advantage to those horses that can run the turn better. Just like humans in track, some humans run the corner. If you're on a relay team, the coach picks the best guy that can run the turn and puts him on that leg. And there's others that could be just as fast, but they can't run the turn. Justify has shown he can run the turns well, and that should play out for him very well at the Belmont because of the length of them. Another thing to consider because of the Belmont circumference itself is the jockeys go up the backstretch, they kind of lose track of how much they're thinking of all the thousands of races they've run or rode before, and they don't realize, they think they're further into race than they are. And consequently, they ask the horse to start accelerating too early. And they come around the turn and head down the stretch, and they get to the 8th pole or the 16th pole, and the horse has nothing left because he thinks he's tired, he's run his race, it should be over, but no, it's not over. And two glaring examples of that, Real Quiet, a Baffert-trained horse back in the 80s, or 90s rather. DeSormo pushed him ahead at the top of the stretch, opened up a huge lead, looked like he'd win, but at the end of the last 16th mile, he had nothing left. He couldn't get to they were begging to get to the wire, and he was caught by Victory Gallop and lost by the smallest of margins. Back in 1979, Spectacular Bid won the first 2 races of the Triple Crown. He was very special. One could argue he was a better horse than American Pharoah, Affirmed, and Seattle Slew. But his jockey pushed him on the backstretch into a very fast pace unnecessarily. He used him up, but basically by the time they got in the turn, and when they turned for home, the Bid had nothing left. Now, other people are going to argue it's his breeding, but if you watch that race, you can see that the jockey went way too early, way too soon. So having a good jockey, very important. And Mike Smith, Big Money Mike, they don't call him that for nothing, knows Belmont. He knows 1.5 miles. He certainly knows the horse. All of those things are positives for Justify. You couldn't have a better trainer preparing a horse for the Belmont than Bob Baffert. He's won it, obviously, with American Pharoah, but he's also been there many times before with and without Triple Crown winners. So he knows what it takes to get a horse prepared. So let's look at this year's field for the Belmont. And as you know, there's 10 horses entered. And it's a cross-section of horses that have run in both the Derby and the Belmont and the Preakness. Others who have run in one of the races, and still more that haven't run in either one, which is a typical Belmont Stakes. Again, this is a 1.5 mile race. None of these horses have run a 1.5 miles. We have a little interesting entry from Europe named, interestingly enough, Gronkowski, after the football player. And he won the opportunity to run in this race, winning some races over in England. But they're at the all-weather tracks in England are at a very low level in terms of skills of the horses, talent. I can't see him competing at the highest level of all dirt thoroughbreds here that are here in the United States. Can't see him. So in my mind, it comes down to 3 horses. Justify, the obvious favorite, and the 2 horses I think that I don't expect them to beat him, but if somebody beats them, I believe it's either going to be the 7 Tenfold or the 8 Vino Rosso. Tenfold ran a very good race in the Preakness. He was obviously closing at the very end. He's an improving horse. He's bred for the distance. Curlin is his sire. Curlin came in second in the Belmont, but he's had Palace Malice, for instance, won the Belmont, and he's a Curlin offspring. He's got Tappet as the sire of the Dam. He can get the distance. He's improving. He has a very good trainer. He's not a New York trainer, so some of the East Coast guys put him down, but Steve Asmussen has won thousands of races. He's going in the Hall of Fame. He'll have the horse ready. The question is he good enough? And he might be. Morning line odds of 12-1. If you can get 12-1 on him, bet it. I don't think it'll be that high. The other one, Vino Rosso, trained by Todd Pletcher, another man that can get the horses ready for the Belmont. Most of the time, he's got one of his entries coming in the money. Vino Rosso ran in the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct and won. Then he went to the Derby and didn't do very well, although he did get to about 9th at the end of the race, and he closed, but he was obviously never in contention. He's been working out well. He has a bullet work. He too is out of Curlin. His dam sire is Street Cry. So there's another one who sired Zenyatta, by the way. It's another horse that should be able to get the distance. Plesher knows what he's doing. He's got Johnny V as the jockey. I kind of like him more than Tenfold. But in the end, I don't. You either believe in Justify or you don't. And I'm on the side that says I believe in him. He looks like a champion. He runs like a champion. He hasn't been beaten. The only undefeated Triple Crown winner is Seattle Slew. I think Justify has every right to be considered in that level of competition. And the only question will be, does he go to the lead? I think the answer to that's going to be yes. And then the question is, how pressured will he be? The other horse in the race that has some speed, interestingly enough, has some co-owners. Owners of Justify also own that horse, Blended Citizen. It'd be hard to believe he's going to push him, the jockey will push Blended Citizen into the race and challenge Justify early. But you never know. Horse racing is, that's why they run the races, as they say. But in my mind, Justify is going to win. I have a sense that he's going to win fairly easily. And it looks like the weather gods have been with us, and it's not going to be a sloppy track. We'll actually be able to see the race. What a novelty. And in any event, watch and enjoy. It's on NBC. Post time is around 6:35 Eastern time. That's when you need to tune in. You don't need to watch all the stuff on the show, just the race. It's about the horse. Don't forget that. Good luck.